迎收看今天的汉天新闻，我是施方圆。首先来看美国国内消息。美国总统川普携夫人前往周末发生枪击的俄亥俄州戴顿，与当地政府和警方进行了交流，了解了事件的最新进展，并慰问了遇难者亲友与事件经历者。而另外一起枪击的发生地德克萨斯州的埃尔帕索，政府和民众则一致表示不欢迎总统川普到访，并称他应该对美国目前的枪支暴力行为负责。
Today, the president will have an opportunity to experience firsthand just what these two cities are feeling. Here in Dayton's Oregon District, for example, the grief is visible. The sidewalks remain dotted with flowers and memorials and candles. And there are still a lot of questions in this community. Last night, we heard from the family of the gunman for the first time.
The first statement from the family of the Dayton shooter and his 22-year-old sister, Megan Betts, read by their local police chief.
They ask that everyone respect the family's privacy in order to mourn the loss of their son and daughter and to process the horror of Sunday's events.
The family also said they are cooperating with the investigation.
We have found very specific violent ideologies that the shooter, we know, followed and was interested in.
After facing chants of do something at a Sunday night vigil, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine Tuesday called on state lawmakers to pass a so-called red flag law, allowing courts to confiscate guns from people who could pose a threat. President Trump made a similar call Monday. He'll visit both Dayton and El Paso today, where he will offer condolences and
also wants to talk about potential solutions and how we keep this from ever happening again.
But in El Paso, Democratic lawmakers say he shouldn't come, citing his words of division.
His actions that he has taken with regard to migrants have hurt our community. And this is not the right time for him to come.
Here in Dayton, they hope discussions in both cities push the president to tackle gun safety, an issue paralyzed by politics.
It keeps me up at night and to keep him up at night.
The White House has not released a specific schedule for the president in either city, but we understand here in Dayton he'll spend about 2 hours on the ground before he heads to El Paso. In Dayton, Ohio, I'm Karen Kefa.
针对周末2起枪击案的调查都在推进之中，警方和相关调查人员了解了更多关于2名枪手的信息以及他们的枪击动机。造成俄亥俄州戴顿市枪击的枪手有暴力上瘾的历史，而在埃尔帕索造成的枪击案的枪手也在被警方持续审讯中。警方透露了更多关于他的暴力历史。
This community is showing us how strong and how resilient and united they are, but it is also so important to point out how worried, how scared they are, the feelings within this community. It was very hard to see a grown man sobbing, saying that Mexicans and that Hispanics were not bad people, because this is an investigation that is looking into a targeted shooting, which has had a direct impact on so many people here in El Paso.
There's a lot of blood, that's all I can say.
El Paso shooting survivor Octavio Ramiro Lizarde describing the moments he watched his 15-year-old nephew, Javier Rodriguez, die in front of him.
I won't go into details, but it was a horrible image.
The shooting suspect's family is breaking their silence, saying their thoughts are focused on the lives lost and the families who are affected by their relatives' atrocity, saying in a statement, quote, "The destruction Patrick did is not limited to the victims and their families." They also claim his motive to kill was influenced, saying, quote, "Patrick's actions were apparently influenced and informed by people we do not know, and from ideas and beliefs that we do not accept or condone in any way." More than 1,000 miles away in Ohio, the FBI has joined Dayton police in combing through piles of evidence in an effort to find a motive for the killing of 9 people.
We have not made any final investigative conclusions into the motive of the shooter or if he was assisted by any other people.
But they say they have uncovered some specific evidence.
That we have not found any indication that it's a racial motivation. We have found evidence of a violent ideology, but I'm not going to get into the specifics.
And President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will be in Dayton, Ohio tomorrow morning. They'll be here in El Paso in the afternoon, but already Congresswoman Victoria Escobar saying that she does not want to join the president and rejecting that invitation from the White House to be here with the president as he visits El Paso. Texas Democrats also saying they don't want the president to be here, but the mayor saying that he is going to welcome the president because this is just not about politics. Reporting in El Paso, Texas, I'm Camila Bernal. Back to you.
墨西哥总统奥布拉多尔日前宣誓将与美国政府进行沟通，敦促美国针对美国周末发生在德州的枪击案件进行法律修改。许多目击者称，他们认为德州枪击案的枪手在选择枪击目标时，针对墨西哥裔人群，有种族歧视倾向。目前，全墨西哥民众都参与了纪念仪式，为周末丧生的枪击遇难者哀悼。
People that we've spoken to on this side of the U.S.-Mexico border, people here in Juarez say one of the most disturbing things is not just that Mexicans were shot, at least 8 Mexican citizens or dual citizens were targeted, but that they were targeted for being Mexican, that apparently the alleged gunman, a white supremacist, sought out people he believed were Mexicans, were immigrants, to try and shoot them. And they say that this is something that they've never dealt with before, that while Ciudad Juarez is a dangerous place, it's an epicenter of some of the drug violence in this country, that El Paso, just over the border where I am now, right there is one of the 4 bridge crossings, that has always been a very safe place, at least in recent years, and that many people, that has been their refuge from the drug violence, and no longer will be so after this latest incident, after this mass shooting. We were able to talk with one of the victims, some of his colleagues. His name is Ivan Manzano. He worked at a local radio station here in Juarez, and his colleagues told us a little bit about him.
Personally, I cared a lot about him. Outside of work, we were friends. It has touched me. I don't want to talk too much because it impacts me. A very good person, a good father. I can say he was a good father. I knew his daughters and wife.
He was a family man. Aside from work, his priority was his mother, his wife, his daughters, his little one most of all. Because she was the light in his eyes, she was his princess. His life is what he would say.
And Ivan's colleagues said that this is incredibly tough for his family because they depended so much on him, that he had 2 young children, that he took care of his ailing mother, and there's really no one who will fill that role now for him and for so many of the other people that have been lost to this senseless tragedy. His colleagues told us they expect Ivan's body, as well as some of the other Mexican citizens who were killed in the shooting, to be brought back later this week here to Mexico, where they will be laid to rest. Patrick Ottman, CNN, Juarez, Mexico.
周末发生的2起恶性枪击事件，造成了30余人的死亡，给2个社会造成了巨大伤害。许多当地民众表示，他们身边太多熟悉的身影永远地离开了，给生活蒙上了一层巨大的阴影。更多事件经历者面对镜头站了出来，讲述了这场灾难给他们的人生和观念带来的改变。
Two communities 1,600 miles apart, both grieving the loss of more than 30 lives in mass shootings over the weekend. In El Paso Monday night, people gathered for vigils 2 days after authorities say 21-year-old Patrick Crusius went on a racially motivated rampage. At least 22 people were killed. Families of the victims struggling to understand why.
I wish that I could tell him, I says, why did you do it? Look how many people he ruined.
Some even finding forgiveness.
We forgive him. We honestly forgive him. We pray for him.
Meanwhile, authorities in Dayton, Ohio are piecing together what led 24-year-old Connor Betts to kill 9 people, including his own sister, in less than a minute.
My cousins did not deserve to lose their life. They had children, hardworking people. All they was doing was enjoying the night on the town, and they're dead.
2 mass shootings in the span of 13 hours, renewing calls for lawmakers to do something, igniting what at times has been a partisan debate.
There's a perfectly good universal background bill that has passed the House that is simply waiting to be taken up in the Senate.
We can certainly do more. I agree with the president We ought to institute more red flag laws.
And President Trump will be in Dayton, Ohio tomorrow morning. He'll be here in El Paso in the afternoon. The Texas Democrats sending an open letter to the president saying they don't want him here in El Paso, but the mayor saying that he's going to welcome him because this is not about politics. Reporting in El Paso, Texas, I'm Camila Bernal.
来看国际方面的消息。中国与美国的贸易战还在持续之中，一些分析专家认为，两国之间的贸易隔阂不仅将对两个国家造成波动，可能对于全球经济都会造成巨大影响。许多美国农工企业都已经因为贸易战而生存艰难。专家期望双方能够加强交流，促进合作，尽快让局面得以改善。
Presidents Trump and Xi Jinping no longer walking together, but rather walking apart.
Expect more Fed rate cuts probably down the road, and that would likely lower the value of the dollar, which would lower interest rates further in the U.S., and then we have to wait and see what China does next to react to that.
Mr. Trump vented his frustration in a tweet Monday saying China is intent on continuing to receive the hundreds of billions of dollars they have been taking from the U.S. with unfair trade practices and currency manipulation. His administration formally designated China as such later in the day, the first such move since the early 1990s.
It just seems as if the U.S. feels that they can continue this trade war and that it will hurt China more than the U.S. Well, China feels that, hey, we don't have a free election in 2020 to worry about.
Tensions started to rise last week when Trump vowed to impose a 10% tariff on $300 billion worth of U.S. imports from China. China responded by devaluing its currency, effectively offsetting the tariffs, and by halting purchases of American agricultural products. That's a move the American Farm Bureau calls a body blow to thousands of farmers and ranchers who are already struggling to get by.
Right now, it's hard to see any cooler heads out there that can prevail.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
周一，印度总统莫迪向国会提出动议，废除当前执行的宪法第370条，取消此前宪法赋予印控克什米尔地区的自治地位。对此，巴基斯坦外交部予以强烈谴责，表示将利用所有可能选项反对印度这一非法措施。
It's a hugely contentious move. India on Monday said it was going to change the way Indian-controlled Kashmir is administered and governed. The announcement was made by India's Home Minister Amit Shah in Parliament, and it came against the backdrop of a security crackdown in Kashmir. Tens of thousands of extra troops have been moving into the region in recent days. Now, this is already one of the most militarized places on earth. Kashmir is one of the world's most dangerous geopolitical flashpoints. The disputed mountainous region is claimed in its entirety by both India and Pakistan and has been the epicenter for more than 70 years of an often violent territorial struggle between the nuclear-armed neighbors. A de facto border called a line of control divides Kashmir between the governments in New Delhi and Islamabad. The measures announced Monday by India would do away with a special provision called Article 370. Under it, the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, which encompasses Indian-controlled Kashmir, can have its own constitution, flag and autonomy over much of its internal affairs, except certain policy areas like foreign affairs and defense. The government of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also wants to modify the administrative status of Jammu and Kashmir. Thus far, classed as a state, the government said it wanted to turn it into what under the Indian system is known as a union territory. That would increase Delhi's influence over the region's affairs. In the Indian system, state governments retain significant authority over local matters, but Delhi has more of a say in the affairs of a union territory. The remote mountainous region of Ladakh, currently part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, would also be separated and turned into a standalone union territory. The announcements were met with an uproar in India's parliament. In Indian-controlled Kashmir, however, things remained quiet, eerily quiet, in fact, at least for now. The reason? Beyond the influx of troops, India has put in place measures to prevent public meetings across the territory, as well as a broad communications blackout that left many without access to the internet and phone services, cut off from the outside world. Nikhil Kumar, CNN, New Delhi.
休息一下，马上回来。